Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I hope you're having a fantastic day. In this video, we're going to be talking about how Armored Core actually plays, because you could absolutely love the setting of the game, the aesthetics, the lore, the story, but if you don't enjoy playing, then all of that could be for naught. So, let me give you a breakdown of all the main mechanics and systems in the game, along with a review of the gameplay and combat. Let's start by making sense of everything you see on screen as you're fighting, because it's far less confusing than it seems, and once you understand this, the rest of the video will be so much more enjoyable. The big circle in the center is obviously your targeting reticle. If you want to hit your target, make sure you're keeping them in the center of your screen and within that circle. There is an auto lock-on function, but we'll talk about that a bit later. Let's cover the heads-up display first. When you have your enemy in your sights, it will show you at the top of the bar their stagger bar and their AP, which is effectively their health bar. And the stagger bar operates fairly similarly to Sekiro. Next up, staying in the center of the screen, the 4 bars to the bottom left and bottom right of the circle show how much ammo is left in each of your weapons. This is your 2 shoulder weapons and your 2 arm weapons. And when one of them turns red, this means that you are out of ammo for that weapon and it is currently reloading. There are exceptions like lasers and melee weapons, but again, hold your horses, this shall be explained. Now, at the bottom of the screen, on the left-hand side, you've got your AP, which stands for armor points and is your health bar. Just beneath that, you have how many repair kits you have remaining. Repair kits are your Estus flasks for this game. They will heal a big chunk of your health, however, they are limited per rest. Next to that indicates whether you have an expansion charge ready to use, and finally whether your scan is currently on cooldown or not, and the scan is used to search for enemies and hidden loot. Next up in the center at the bottom is your own stagger bar and also your energy. Your energy you can view as stamina. You use this to boost around and dodge attacks. And finally at the bottom right you have your left and right shoulder weapons displayed as LB and RB, left back and right back, and your left and right arm weapons, LA and RA. Now you know what everything is, let's start talking about how it all actually works. Let me circle back around and clarify a few things I've already brought up, and then we'll deep dive into the systems and mechanics. So I mentioned that there is an auto lock-on, and just like with Dark Souls, if you press in the right thumbstick on your controller, you will auto lock onto your target. However, this game rewards you for skillful gameplay, and whilst you're using the auto lock-on, your weapon's accuracy will be reduced. It's not too significant, but it's definitely better to try and not learn to rely on this unless you really need to. If you can manually aim the camera and keep the enemy in the center of your screen at all times, you are going to hit 100% of your shots. However, with all that being said, the level of customization in this game is insane. To understand what I mean, go and check out the first video I did with my overall first impressions of the game. So, in spite of what I have just said about the auto lock-on, I do envision there being many options to improve the auto lock-on feature as we progress through the game and unlock more gear and customization. Next up, I mentioned about ammo and that big red bar indicating when you're reloading. Some weapons, instead of having ammo, will overheat. For instance, when I use my sword here, you will see a red cooldown bar. This time, instead of reloading my weapon, I am just waiting for it to cool down so I can use it again. And this applies for other energy type weapons. Now that I've explained all of that, let's dive into how you actually do the combat. The most important thing is obviously how to actually attack your enemies, and this is done using the 4 shoulder buttons on your controller. Your arms being controlled by L1 and R1, and your shoulders with L2 and R2, or obviously the equivalent on an Xbox controller. Weapons like rocket and missile launchers, you just need to press once and you will automatically unload a barrage of missiles on your enemy. However, weapons like assault rifles and machine guns, you'll need to hold down the triggers to continue firing in full auto. And then there are weapons like sniper rifles and swords, where you will push the corresponding button once per swing. And again, if you do want to check out the full array of weapons available to you, literally just during the opening chapter, go check out the other video, because I have a very limited amount of content I'm allowed to show you before the official release, so I want to keep this as concise as possible. So now you know how to go on the offensive and deal damage to your opponents. Perhaps even more important than that is mobility. The gameplay in this game is classed as omnidirectional, which means you can travel anywhere. Up, down, sideways, diagonal, backwards, you name it. And to that end, you have many mobility options available to you. You can fly, you can jetpack, you can rocket boost, you can glide, you name it, and you will need to get comfortable with all of this to tackle all of the opponents this game has to offer. For instance, if you need to close the gap very quickly or you are just traversing a big open space, push down the left thumbstick and you will blast towards your target, but you will be left very vulnerable during this state, and therefore simply boosting may be a better option if you're already in quite close quarters with your enemy. Boost can be used in two ways. You can hold it down to quickly circle your enemy, or you can just press it to quickly dodge out of the way of incoming projectiles. I must admit, all of the mobility options on offer were definitely the most daunting part of my time with Armored Core. It feels so unique, and there are just so many options available to you that it is a very challenging control scheme to get your head around. But trust me, stick with it and just practice all of the various things you can do, and when it finally clicks, you feel like such a god when you're playing this. By the time you're watching this video, I was playing it probably a month ago, and every day since, I have been jealous of past me that I'm currently not able to play this. I cannot wait for it to release. It felt so damn good. The last thing I'll say about the core combat loop before we move on to the next topic is that I did mention that the stagger bar was similar to Sekiro, but not quite the same. When enemies are staggered, and equally when you are staggered, you will be immobilized for just a brief second, but the full stagger status will stay on whoever is staggered for a few more seconds after that. And during this time, every single attack against the staggered target will count as a crit, which is effectively double damage. So if your opponent is nearly staggered, you want to save up your big heavy attacks like your missile launchers, try and stagger them with your weaker weapons and then rain hell down upon them. It is so satisfying just seeing that health bar melt when you have time to stagger really well on your enemies. Now that you know how to fight, let's talk about how levels work. There are so many different types of missions. Some are timed, some are objective based, some you need to work with allies, some you just need to go in, kill every enemy in the area, job done. The variety of missions is incredible, but one thing that 99% of them share in common is checkpoints. Unlike Elden Ring's Sites of Grace or Dark Souls' Bonfires, Armored Core has checkpoints. These aren't physical things you go and interact with, but will be activated automatically for you when you reach a certain point in a stage. From my experiences so far and my current time with the game, if you die and revive at a checkpoint, this appears to be the only time during a mission that you will regain your health and your repairs. However, luckily you can use this to your advantage. It means that if you've just got past a particularly tough area and you've had to use all of your repair kits, luckily, if there's a boss round the corner, chances are that just before you enter that boss arena, there will be a checkpoint. So all you need to do is walk into the boss, get your face completely destroyed, and then you will respawn with full health and full repair kits. However, don't take what I've just said to mean that this game is easy. Every time you die, in fact, every time you take damage, and every time you use ammo, your reward for finishing a mission is reduced. At the end of the day, you are a mercenary working for corporations. And if you take excessive damage, then repair costs come out of your paycheck. If you use too much ammo, that ammo replenishment comes out of your paycheck. So unlike Elden Ring, where you drop your runes and you have to go and collect them, there seems to be no repercussions when you die in Armored Core, until you finish the mission and realize you've spent half of your budget on repair costs. And just before I scare anyone off, I'm being dramatic, it's not quite half. It isn't insignificant, it's definitely something you need to pay attention to, but only if you die like 50 times are you going to hemorrhage a significant amount of money. Though, now I say it, a few of the journalists that were at the session with me probably did die around 50 times. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say here, to sum up this section, get good. However, casuals rejoice because it does seem as though there's going to be quite a heavy emphasis on co-op, both NPC allies and other real players. There's so much more I want to say about levels, but I'm running out of time, so I'll leave you with this before we move on to the next topic. Levels are absolutely enormous, and there could be secrets and hidden loot and new environments to explore everywhere. So really take your time, search high and low, swoop in between buildings, fly off into the mountains, and scan everywhere. And the fact that environments come into play so much during your gameplay makes me so happy. Weaving in and out of buildings and literally using giant office blocks and skyscrapers as cover really does make you feel like a mecha kaiju. I think that gives you a really good overall impression of the gameplay, so let's take a look at a few of the behind the scenes systems. Unlike in the Souls franchise where it just chucks you in at the deep end and tells you to get on with it, you don't need to be intimidated by all the gameplay mechanics I've been talking to you about so far, because Armored Core 6 has loads of fantastic built-in tutorials ranging from beginner to expert, and you unlock more and more as you progress through the main story, and they're very good at talking you through and explaining everything new that you're unlocking. Alongside the text-based tutorials and the actual training missions that you can enter, there are a bunch of other systems set up to help make Armored Core 6 easily the best in the franchise. Alongside tons and tons of fantastic missions, you also have the option to replay missions. Not only can you earn some extra credits for doing this, but also some of them are just so damn fun that you just really want to replay them. And the fact that you can pick and choose it without having to do the entire game again, so that you can practice certain bosses or just experience certain areas of the game again, is a really cool feature to me. And one final thing to talk about before we wrap up that I'm not actually allowed to show you any footage of, but I'm so glad that the arena is back. The arena is super fun. It rewards you with this very special, very exclusive currency that you can use to unlock permanent upgrades to any Armored Core that you choose to make. And the arena fights themselves are a real test of your skills. No repair kits allowed, may the best Armored Core win. And there are some truly wonderful creations for you to fight against in the arena. Anyway, I believe that's all we have time for now. I really cannot wait to share more of this amazing game with you. And as always, my friends, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.